Hi, Jane.
Hello, good morning. Thank you
You
for
okay?
joining me.
Sorry about that. 2 minutes past. I was just grabbing a water. My mouth always dries up when I'm chatting, so I
Me
thought,
too, I am with you. I've got my
yeah,
water ready. I always like to have a pen, even though I'm not really intending on making any notes. But you never know. I like to have it
yeah.
in hand. I'm a
I've
bit of
just,
a pen.
I've just ditched pens and paper. I've got one of these, these etch a sketches things.
Oh, yes.
It's called Remarkable. So it's like yeah, I call it the adult etch a sketch. So you just do that, and then you can swipe it and carry on taking notes, and it converts
Oh,
your handwriting to type like so.
oh, I
Not
like
that
it.
I'm, yeah, not that I'll need to take any notes.
And have you done a Christmas ad for that particular?
No, not yet. No, I've been yeah, been a bit round the last couple of weeks to be honest. So I haven't been.
You've
I
not
mean,
been doing.
yeah, and I've come up with a few ideas. I always stick some initial ideas in my notes on my phone. So I mean, there's probably 1,000 or something daft, complete daftness
Yeah.
in there.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know Dave, Dave is a freelance copywriter based in Liverpool who's been keeping our team at Entyce amused over the last few weeks, months, bringing a much welcome smile to our face. I think with a lot of the content that's out there is pretty dismal, doom and gloom, and actually it's been really refreshing to see some light-hearted humour and just all-round well-presented content. So thank you for that, Dave, and thank you for joining us. So yeah, there's an intro. How's this year been for you so far?
Yeah, a bit mad. As I suppose it's the same for a lot of people. I mean, personally, it's probably the worst year of my life. Before COVID hit, both of my nans died within 2 weeks of one another, which was just like, proper, absolutely knocked me for six. And just seeing my mum and dad go through that. I mean, I suppose the blessing in disguise was that it happened at the same time, so they both knew what each other was going through. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, it was horrific. And then um, yeah, like 3 days after me second nan had died, the lockdown happened, and it was just like, what are we going to do? Everyone, a lot of my clients they just stopped for say a week or 10 days, and we're just like they didn't really know what to do. A couple of my clients in the events industry just pulled the plug completely and just said we've got nothing to really promote, so we don't need any marketing copy or anything for our social media sites at this time. So that stopped. But yeah, I mean the rest of the clients they pivoted pretty quickly. Those that were already in industries that weren't affected carried on as usual. One of the clients I write for, they do they're like an outsourced media provider, so they can like create your company's own version of Netflix, for instance, where you put
Okay.
all of your content. So they were helping businesses like theatres and things put
Yeah.
all of their content online and stream that stuff online. So I got involved with companies who were pivoting like that. But yeah, I suppose from my business perspective, it was I don't put all my eggs in one basket. So
Mm.
I made sure that probably a year to 18 months ago that I only do say maybe max 20%, 25% with one client. So
Yeah.
when those events clients stopped, it wasn't that much of an issue for me. And I increased my output on social media. So whereas last year I was probably doing 3 posts a week on LinkedIn, it was up to 5 or 6 or one a day maybe. And as you've said at the start, a lot of it is just me messing around. Really. Well, it feels like
Mhm.
I'm messing around. Obviously, there's some strategy behind it. I want to
Yeah,
attract the type of clients that want to do the more fun stuff.
definitely.
But I mean, at this time where we are, everyone's doom and gloom, and it's the general mood is down. I thought it's giving people a little bit of a lift to see something
Definitely.
light-hearted, a little bit
And
jokey.
yeah, and I think, like you've said, I think definitely initially the world went into shock, and your initial thing is, right, let's absolutely look where we can cut back on everything. But I think how you've treated your own social media and how you kind of not cut back, you've put out there more, is hopefully showing potential clients and clients that you're working with now is not the time to really cut back on your marketing. If you want to, if this is something that you are going to survive, some of your competitors won't. Now's not a time to cut back, really. Do you think that's helped attract new clients as well then over the last few months?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't stopped since the lockdown. I haven't stopped. I had 10 days off in September. We went to Cornwall just after the or in between the two lockdowns, where we could get an opportunity to have a little bit of a break. But yeah, just haven't stopped. So I've certainly seen clients getting in touch with me because I've remained active. And I think the clients that I write for as well, they've seen business remain steady rather than those who would have perhaps, I mean, I don't know how the two clients in the events industry, I haven't really kept in touch with them. They've just gone off and done their own thing. I don't know how they've fared. It'd be interesting to see in comparison to those who I have been writing for throughout the whole thing, who've been bringing the work in. The more visible they are. I mean, I suppose there's a difference between being visible and just putting any old crap out there. There's loads of brands that do that. If you're visible, but you're also helping people and showing how you can improve people's lives, I think that's the kind of magic sauce. And
I think definitely the angle of humour, which can be hard to get right. And I mean, I appreciate what you put out there, and I think some brands are too safe. I guess what people class as humour is everyone's different, so everyone will interpret things in different ways. But I think by not being the same, by be willing to put some investment into it, have a think about it, hopefully then attracts that type of client to you as well, who's willing to have a bit of a laugh and not play it safe. Do you have a kind of, what's your measure? How do you, is there somebody that you run ideas past when you think, do you know what, is this a bit too close to the bone? How do you kind of veto with things before they go out?
For my own market, no, not at all. No. I mean, right. I don't go too edgy. It's just it's more daft than really kind of provocative. I don't go too close to the bone in terms of crudeness. It's more it is more kind of satire and jokey. But yeah, for clients, when they ask me to do stuff for them, I know straight away they'll be running stuff past their own teams internally, and I'll get a lot of pushback. Some of them will say that's just not right for our tone. But I mean, it's not my job to give them the safe options. I will always push it as far as I can, and wait for them to push back and go, that's not quite for us. I mean, now and again, I suppose I have gone a little bit too far and overstepped that mark where I've thought, you know what, that's not quite right for that brand. And before it's gone live or before it's gone any further, I've maybe just had a think on it and gone, you know what, I've second thought. Let's scrap that idea. Let's rein that in a little bit more. It's happened a couple of times, but not a lot.
I think from a client's perspective, you'd rather have something so far out there. It's easier to rein ideas in than to be thinking this is just plain boring. And actually, you want to come at it from a different angle, something they perhaps wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah. Always good to start as far out of your comfort zone as you can. And then you've got kind of room to bring it in. Whereas if you start off in kind of safe zone, you end up only pushing out in certain bits. And, say you're on a scale of kind of 0% is purely safe and 100% is the maddest thing you've ever done. If I'm only doing or if I'm writing something that's 20% out of their comfort zone, even just by changing a sentence or changing the angle of a story or upping the tone a little bit, you're only really going to get to 25-30%. Whereas if it's 100% nuts, they can go, okay, that's far too mad. Let's rein it in, and you might get to 50%, and that's where the nice kind of balance will lie.
I'd say that's a good achievement. If you can do that, next time you might get to 70. It's
exactly.
a hand-holding process, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, and I mean, it's tough for brands to test like I can test, because I mean I've got no bosses above me who are telling me no. I kind of know what my own personal brand tone of voice is, so I'm quite comfortable with it. Whereas with a brand, it's just what they're comfortable with. I mean, it'd be nuts for a 100-year-old really traditional solicitors to start putting casual swearing into their social media. Just wouldn't work for them at all. So you wouldn't even go there. But maybe having a little bit of a poke or some fun at some solicitor stereotypes, maybe that might be where they can get their foot in the door to bring that humor in. So it's all about kind of gauging both the client's tone, where they're willing to push it, and also the audience. If their audience are also really traditional solicitors, they're probably just all they want is information, and they want no humor from this type of content. So always spin it back to the audience.
True. And how what do you look for when you're looking to work with a client? Is it important to you that the decision maker is part of the process, or is there a particular type of industry, or is there, what are the key things you'd look for when somebody approaches you to do a kind of, I know when we get client inquiries, we like to score them to see how high do they score as a client for us, and we have particular criteria. Do you follow a similar sort of thing, and what do you look for?
I don't really have anything that sophisticated. With it just being me, I kind of gauge each one on a case by case. I think if I had some sort of agency model and there was I had a team here, and I had loads more inquiries coming in, that probably would be the case. I suppose, yeah, what do I look for in a client? It's back to what you said at the start, really. The fact that I do the more edgier, humorous daft stuff, it tends to filter out the clients who wouldn't even want to work with me anyway, because they'll see my stuff and go, it's too far out of our comfort zone, but let's find another copywriter. And that's fine. Loads of brands don't even want to go there. But yeah, for those that do want to work with me, I start off with a copy brief form, 10 dead plain, really simple plain English questions that I send them, and you can normally gauge from their answers if what do you do? If their answer is we provide innovative solutions to an ever-growing market of, straight away I'm on the blower to them saying, look, I need to know this in simple terms. How would you describe this to a 10-year-old kid, or how would you describe this to your nan, for instance, what you do, just to really get to the bare bones, which again is fine, because a lot of these businesses, that's their internal speak. That's what that's how they communicate. That's what they're coming to me for. But in terms of my ideal client, it's all about plain speaking. I love people just giving it to me straight, saying, this is what we do, this is what we want to achieve. Cut out all of this marketing speak. I'm a former journalist, kind of blagged my way into being a copywriter just because I can write the story side of things. So the marketing side, I'm kind of just learning that as I go. So as soon as somebody comes to me and starts hitting me with all of these kind of marketing terminology, it confuses me as well. Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, that's one thing I always try and bear in mind with our own marketing. If I read something that's going out on any of our platforms or on our website, I always try and think, would I feel comfortable talking like that to a person face to face? And if it sounds like I just would never use those words, it's not how I speak, would that be something that you would try and encourage clients to do as well?
Yeah, I say that to them. I mean, I've written posts on social media where I'm quite open about the tone and the language that I use in my own marketing. Like, for instance, I've never said hi at the start of an email. I'm from near Liverpool. We just don't really say hi. It's just not a Scouse thing. We say hiya. We say, oh, hiya. So at the start of my emails, I now open them. You'll probably notice from my messages to you. I'll say, hiya, Jane. Hiya, such and such. Because that's how I speak. For brands, obviously they can't. It's all about what they're comfortable with. It's all about what's authentic to them. I mean, hi is fine. Hi is the catch-all. But if you are a small business and you do say hiya, use hiya. Or if you say see ya or ta-ra, just put that at the end of your emails. All of that brings out the authenticity rather than making you feel rather than making you feel like, oh, just same old, safe like everybody else. It makes people notice you rather than the other way around. So yeah, whenever possible, I encourage brands and small business owners, when I'm working directly with them, I say ramp up that personality if it aligns to where you want to take the brand. I mean, I'll work with premium brands who just don't want to go there. They want to keep it premium. So it's tough. It's tough to do. Yeah. Again, it's back to balance.
And what's the balance for you if you're writing web copy for a client? Obviously, there's always that we need to get enough information in there to make sure that they understand entirely what we do. We've got to be mindful of getting the right content, keywords in there for SEO. So there's keeping a few different elements happy, if you like. But then I think also you don't want to put every single thing that you do there, because a lot of the time people buy people and the website is designed to be the kind of call to action to get them in touch. How do you have to do a lot of guidance and advice in terms of quantity of copy as well as the actual tone?
Yeah, it's normally like, look, we're starting here with War and Peace. Let's get it down to a postage stamp, and that's my job to get it down to that. And when they have got, when they've got 50 different services and they've got 200 words for each service all on one page, it's just like, let's prioritize things. Let's start with the client. Let's get your top 3 services to bring them to the fore. Okay, so we've ditched all the other stuff that can sit further down the page. Now these top 3 services, let's not just say we provide email solutions, we provide social media copywriting solutions. Always spin it back to the reader. Let them know what benefits the reader's going to get from it. So for your email, it's send out the most unignorable emails of your life. For social media, it's get more likes from the kind of people that want to buy from you. It's not we provide this, we provide that. It's always showing what benefits you provide. So yeah, prioritize. Start with always have the reader in mind. Start with your benefits. SEO. I'm not an SEO person. As far as I'm concerned, SEO is the last of my worries. I will subtly bring the SEO keywords in at the very end, but to start with those in mind, nah, it's like leave that for blog posts. For web copy, for your kind of core static pages, it's all got to be message and benefits led rather than starting with any keywords.
I think for clients, I think it's almost your own copy. You're too close to it sometimes. And I think you can't help but fall into a trap of, certainly when we're working with clients, well, this is what our competitors say. And it's almost like they almost have a fear of, if I don't say that, the client won't know that I do it. And then it goes full circle where you put absolutely everything on the page and you've totally turned people off because there's just too much. You can't read it. It's not engaging. It's not telling me, like you said, what are you going to do for me? And it almost has a complete opposite effect.
Yeah, one of my clients, actually, they're a consultancy, or they're an agency for the consulting industry. And one of the first questions they ask they have a framework that they go through with all their new clients. Question number 1 is, what do you want to be famous for? It's just another way of framing your USP. What is your USP? What do you want to be known for? And if you can't answer that, it's like you've got no chance whatsoever, because if you haven't got that nailed, you don't really know who you are. You don't know your identity. You're just going to blend in like everybody else. And your product or service mightn't be the differentiator. You might need your tone of voice to be different.
Yeah.
There's 1,000 different insurance companies out there. They all sell like exactly the same stuff. But the ones that stand out are I don't know if you've seen, I think they're called Dead Happy. So they just just completely make a play on all of the kind of weird taboo words and feelings around death and funerals. They make light of it. Obviously, that's not for everybody, but they're standing out. They're famous for making light of what is traditionally a no-go area, and they're doing well off it.
Well, it's something you remember, isn't it? I think, there are industries that are absolutely saturated, and when you come down to it, they're pretty much like for like. Unless you're judging on price, you're judging on the whole personality, service, the people that you want to work with, and that's where your marketing gets that across. How were you? What was school like for you? I'm always intrigued when people are perhaps not, I don't know if you would be a traditional kind of English student, because obviously working in copy, or whether, because sometimes school doesn't lend itself to the real world, if you like. How was school for you?
Yeah, well, English was my one. So I loved writing stories from an early age. I was writing poems. I was reading everything I could as a kid. I just loved anything to do with words, really. And so I excelled at English, got an A star, and blitzed all of that stuff, and that's what got me into the kind of the journalism game. But I think school in general, I remember I went from like year 7, let's discount primary school, but from year 7 to year 11, I suppose this is why I take the approach I do now. I was a proper SWAT in year 7, and I was just like, worried about everything. I had to A star everything I had to do, and then over time, I gradually kind of knew my own voice, knew what I enjoyed, which I know every kind of kid does. Knew they focus on what they're good at. But I'd kind of weighed up all the teachers as well. I knew which teachers you could kind of push so far, and I was like the kid that did all the impressions of the teachers. So I was the one, like, there was a fella from like Birmingham called Mr. Ricketts, and like,
give us one.
You guys, you're acting like a bunch of fairies. He's our rugby teacher. Get off the field. Come on now. And it was just like, I was the voice of Mr. Ricketts, and that was it.
You could terrify kids down the corridor. He's coming.
Yeah. So, but the other teachers used to get me to do impressions of the other teachers as well.
Brilliant.
They probably used to buzz off me in the staff room. So I was that kid, always messing about and joking and stuff. But definitely the English, it was like I'd gone from this SWAT in year 7, and then by year 11, it was like I was messing around with the little characters and stuff, and taking the piss out of the teachers a bit. But I knew exactly what I wanted to do in terms of that, the storytelling, the writing, the coming up with kind of wacky scenarios and things. And I'm so lucky to be able to do that in what I do now, because there was a time in my life between graduating from my journalism degree and freelancing, really. I had 12, 13 years when it was just, there was no excitement. I was just writing for the brand, didn't really have much confidence. And it was just like, whereas now I'm freelance, I've got no bosses to kind of say, oh, you can't put that on your social media. I put what I want on my social media, because I know that I'm filtering out all of the people that wouldn't want to work with me anyway. So honestly, I kick myself every day. It's brilliant.
I did see a post that you put out recently saying about 10 years ago, your boss said to you, you need to be more, take yourself more seriously if you want to get anywhere. And I thought it's really interesting, because actually, if that's not your character, that's your strength. You're playing to your strength. If your humour is what people buy into, it's almost like trying to kill a part of you, which is your actual positive, your USP, really.
Yeah, it is. I think he was kind of trying to mentor me at the time, because he wasn't, he was just your archetypal kind of marketing director, straight up. No jokes about him really, apart from at the Christmas do maybe. And I think he just saw me sitting in a meeting, whenever somebody would say something, I'd kind of, if it was like bullshit, he'd see me just sitting there going, like, shaking my head or something, or just probably, I was probably the worst employee to have, to be honest. This is nobody else will have me. This the freelance life for me. But yeah, I think in saying that to me, it just, I thought, you know what, you're wrong. There is an element of humor in marketing and humor in everything, really. And if you can bring that out, that's the way you can relate to people, and that's the way you can sell as well.
I think positivity definitely breeds positivity. If you can make somebody laugh, if you can break down those barriers. I always think in a meeting, it's almost, you need to make it your mission. I'm going to make this person laugh, because actually everyone's got a sense of humor. Some people further deep down there than others. But I think equally, if you are too serious, if everything is doom and gloom, that spreads as well. So I think we do need to flip it. It's definitely this year. And I think that's what's been a welcoming change with the content that you've been putting out there. So I have huge admiration for copywriters. My background's a designer, so I'm always thinking about the visual side of things. Do you, when you're working with agencies or clients, if it's like on an ad campaign, do you have in your mind a vision of what the creative is going to look like, or are you focused solely on the words?
I'd say it's probably 75% of the time it's the words, and then sometimes I'll think of a nice visual or how that can work. Sometimes no copy is needed, the visual does it. Old Volkswagen ads from years ago, where they're showing how durable the cars are. It's just got, like, it's got I can't even remember what one of them's got. It's like a car, one of the Volkswagen cars in a row of cars parked up, and there's a riot going on, but all the people with the riot shield are around the car, the guard in the car. So it's like, it's just showing how valuable the car is. And then in the very next ad, all the people with the riot shields are standing behind the car. So it's showing how durable the car is. So in that sense, I think that they obviously had like a tagline in the bottom corner, but there was no copy on it. So sometimes the image can work. But in terms of whether I think of it, it's normally copy first, and then I always think message first, bring the images in later, which is in contrast to how when I worked in house for the company for 10 years, I was in a small creative team. It was me, the writer, and 3 other designers. So a lot of the time we'd just be brainstorming stuff amongst one another, and I'd be coming up with images. One of the designers would be coming up with the copy, and it was a mishmash, really. We were like creatives, it wasn't just it was all just chipping in. But now I'm just a copywriter. I tend to just focus on the copy, really.
And actually, if it's strong enough, I know some of the posts that you put out there on your own things are just black and white, and it just be created into a visual, and the copy is what sells.
Exactly. If the copy is strong enough, it stands alone, you don't need imagery. Like the type itself, if it's bold enough, that can look like really impactful, is it? Almost like an image. So yeah.
Where do you go to for inspiration? I mean, are you constantly still reading all the time now? Do you read books? Do you listen to podcasts? What's your source of inspiration?
Yeah, I don't read as much as I used to, which is sad. Partly because I'm working loads, and in my kind of spare time, it is a mixture of reading marketing and copy books, and Just the usual, watching movies, watching a little bit of Netflix when I can, just to keep up with the zeitgeist and see what everyone's talking about. A lot of time I'll be writing for clients who will be talking about that stuff, so I try and keep up with my current affairs as well, and just what's going on in the world, because I think sometimes there's a danger if you do get too detached from that reality. You've just got no chance when you say writing social media copy for a brand and they're trying to keep up with what's going on, and you're just not up with that. So but I mean, inspiration, it's literally comes from anywhere. When I'm writing clients, say I'm working for a new client, they can give me all the information they've got on the product or whatever, or any research that they've got on it. But what I'll do is I'll have a look on review sites. I'll see how people are talking about those products. I will have a look on forums so say it's a new computer game or a new console or whatever. I'll be having a look on the Xbox forums to see the language people are using and try and bring that into. That will inspire me as well. And also there's an element of like personal inspiration. So stuff, say it is a computer console or whatever, I will write down, even just as like headline starters, any experiences that I've had with video consoles, and just to spark little story starters, or any any rhymes that I can think of, or any idioms that I can kind of spin on their head, anything like that, just to kind of spark a little idea that we can perhaps turn into a story or a social post or whatever we want to do. I mean, that's work wise, in general. It can come from anywhere. I'll have ideas when I'm out on my bike. I could ride past a sign, for a farm or something, and it'll have a funny kind of phrase, and I'm just like, that's going in there. Yeah, they happen all the time. I think being able to spot those and see ideas and little stories in almost everything. I think that's why businesses have really got no excuse when they say, oh, we've got nothing to write about. You can find a story in absolutely anything you want, as long as you tell it in the right way, and make it relatable to people. They're going to read it.
That's the thing, and I think to almost compare you to comedian, but it is always looking at things in day-to-day life and making it relatable. Because I know you did a post recently and it really struck with me. Stop writing, we're delighted to announce. And I thought, that is your go-to kind of phrase, isn't it? You've just won an award, you've started working with a new client, we're delighted to announce. And actually, that was a really refreshing post, because again, I think so many people will be using that phrase but actually looking for alternatives. So I think it's just having that foresight to think it's not just me who struggles with this.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time when you do fall back into those kind of lazy, tired, cliche openers for lines, which you have a look on LinkedIn today, you'll probably see that done 10 times within your first 5 minutes of scrolling. It's just like, just before you post anything, right, stop, just have a little pause and think, if I'm reading this, what is going to, as I'm scrolling through all the other crap that you get on your, whether it's email, social, what is the one thing that's going to stop somebody and make them go, whoa, what's that? So if you can write something that just makes them pause for that one split second, you've got their attention. And writing "we're delighted to announce" is not going to get that, regardless of what comes after it. You might have just won an Oscar. I'm delighted to announce I've just won an Oscar is the worst way to announce that.
No, totally agree. And I think actually sometimes people are almost surprised at what does get the most engagement, because it's the less polished sometimes, isn't it? It's the less, it's almost the more authentic stuff that you put out there, that you've written, and you've almost posted as yourself, rather than with your company head on and your kind of brand guidelines, tone of voice, and I guess it's trying to get companies to break that down and be more you. Be more real.
all of that kind of, anything that you can do that feels like it comes from the heart will always sound better, as provided it's not completely weird and just a garbled mess. Do some editing at the end. But if you can just, I wrote an email a few weeks back, and it was about a technique called, I spoke about it actually on a podcast the other day, a technique called the splodge, which is if you don't know how to explain something, don't know how to write something. It's back to what I said before about writing experiences and memories and idioms and rhymes, anything you can think of. Just pour everything out onto the page. Okay, it's going to look a little bit messy because they're just your kind of subconscious thoughts, but there will be some little nuggets of gold in there. There'll be something that you can pull out of that and go, oh, that'll be a nice story opener, or even a nice little subject line.
process as well, you'll always have these bad ideas in your head. Just get them out there. Don't be embarrassed. Just get everything out there. Anything goes, doesn't it? You need to get the bad
exactly
to find the good ones, really, don't you?
Yeah.
I think at the moment there'll obviously be a lot of people who are probably out of work, whether it's through choice or not, who are considering, do you know what, 2020 might be my time to go it alone, set up my own business, go freelance. What kind of advice would you give them?
I'd certainly say to try and build up some kind of network before you do anything. So before I went full-time freelance, before I even, in fact, I was working at my 9 to 5, and for about 9 months I was doing bits and bobs of an evening and of weekends. So while I was doing that, as soon as I realized, wow, I can make a decent living by freelancing here, and it was kind of on my radar as something I would do, I thought, I need a network here. I need to find out how this works, how I can, what do I do about taxes? What do I do about approaching clients? I haven't got a brief form. I haven't got a contract. What do I say to clients? How do I price my services? So I just went on Twitter, connected with as many other freelancers and copywriters as I could. So if anyone's, thinking of going freelance, build that network up, like start it today, because you can't blag that. You can't magic that overnight. It's a long-term thing. And you talk about authenticity. That's as authentic as it gets. You've got to engage with people's conversations. You have to, converse with them, send them messages, ask them questions, like their stuff, but be genuine and about everything. And so that was the first step that I took. So I always say that whenever people are saying, "Oh, I'm bored of my job, I'm thinking about freelancing. How can I do that?" I say, just get out there, start building your network up, and you'll find as well that opportunities will come to you. So if you're putting yourself out there more and building that network up, you might get known for something. They might know you as the niche designer of pet food or something, or a writer of solicitor emails or whatnot. So opportunities will arise if you show yourself. Second thing is just, I know obviously if people are out of work, they know that they're desperate to do any work, but freelancing is so hard. Never underestimate. You might see freelancers sitting in coffee shops, and I wonder how they do it, because I probably put double the hours in that I used to, and there's no off switch whatsoever. When you're working on your own business, it's always on your mind, or it's always at the back of your mind anyway. So even though I'm in a co-working space now, I don't know if I show you that. The little so this is where I am, little co-working space in Liverpool. Yeah, so there's only a handful of us in, like 10 of us in today. But when I leave here, when I leave here of an evening, sorry, my volume went off. I won't find my laptop up at home. I will have home as home. Now and again, if there's an email or something, and it's an awkward one, and I've got to attach a load of stuff that's on my laptop, I'll do that. But I'll split the two. But for the rest of the time, as I'm going to bed dreaming, it's like I've got ideas flowing around in my head and little worries about, what do we need to do? So yeah, don't underestimate how hard you'll have to work. So yeah, they're the main two really. I suppose the third one will be just don't say no to anything. So if you get whatever opportunity you get, just take it and learn how to do it. Learn how to do it second. And as you progress and as you learn what you're good at and what you're bad at, you can start filtering out the stuff that you don't really like, and take it from there.
And I think I can certainly relate to all that, having started a business. And I think we were the same, really. We did have that discipline, because I know that it's kind of seen that agencies just work till midnight every night. That's just what they do. They get the pizza in. But for us, we wanted to make sure that we have the discipline, that actually we want to be working hours to be efficient and make sure that we've got the right amount of staff. And we're working efficiently, not because I don't think it's cool to work all hours of the day, because you're not giving yourself, it's important to have that break, as you've mentioned, and have that off switch. I think social media has changed a lot, obviously, since we started our business. So I'd imagine that side of things, you're probably still on, aren't you, in the evening? You're still looking at comments and stuff.
Yeah. On the two that I'm active on, which is Twitter and LinkedIn, I'll still be looking at them. Facebook, I don't use Facebook at all anymore. That's for my mum and dad, keeping up with all the rest of the family. And Instagram, because mine's predominantly copy, it doesn't really work for me. I know other writers and certainly designers it works for, but I think other writers, they've got to really be doing the visuals loads, and I'm not really hot on Canva. So yeah, I try and just keep it.
I think you find the ones that work for you, and I think that's what you've got to do. Every business has got to. I think it's far better to choose your platforms that you're comfortable with, that you feel right for your brand, and do them well, rather than being on every single platform and just ticking a box, just in the same content, which you do see.
Yeah.
Are there any particular brands, or one particular brand you'd name that inspires you?
Yeah, I mean, no surprises, but it's the ones who are going against the grain. They're doing the more shocking stuff, the funnier stuff. So by far, it's Paddy Power, and it has been for the last 4 or 5 years. There's a few pretenders on the scene, so the likes of Brewdog doing some really cool stuff. Oatly, I quite like their tone. There's a trousers brand called Spoke London, who are just really nice in their tone of voice. But yeah, Paddy Power by and large. I mean, they're almost like another lad Bible. They're a content creator rather than just a bookmakers. I mean, I hate bookmakers. I think the parasites, especially the online ones, just preying on people. But I get them all the time. I think because I rave about Paddy Power, I'll get like ones from rivals, so the likes of Coral and William Hill and stuff. And the stuff they put out is just ridiculous. It's just like, oh, it was on yesterday from William Hill, and it was like, oh, it's Judi Dench's birthday today. Happy birthday, Judy. She was in Bond, and that was it. There was no tie-in to a competition. I was like, who's reading that? Who's engaging? Yeah. Just nuts. Whereas Paddy Power, back to what I said before about being current and being on the zeitgeist. I mean, Dominic Cummings he hadn't even got back from Barnard Castle, and they already had about 50 memes and jokes and stuff. They know their audience spot on. Yeah. So it's just
Specsavers are quick onto that as well, weren't they? They do.
Specsavers, yeah. Forgot about them. They're ace, yeah.
Yeah. Don't come to us. Go on a drive to a castle.
yeah, brilliant. Any brands that can do that, I actually wrote a line, funnily enough, for a new brand that I was working with over the summer. So I came up with a couple of lines for them just on the back of that, because I knew all of the brands that would be on the ball social wise would be talking about that, yeah. And for this brand that I was writing for, it was spot on their voice. They're a little bit cheeky, so it was nice.
That's the thing about being topical, isn't it? I think as much as you can plan your content, you've still got to inject some things in terms of what's actually happening in the world without being too offensive.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have the resource to do that. You've got to have a team who can do that. For some smaller brands, it's hard. Where it is just, for me, for instance, I'm writing on a client website all afternoon today. There's nobody else going to be tweeting about, if some major news thing happens. Yeah. Whereas if you've got a small team who can do that for you, you got the benefit of being reactive to things like that. So yeah, it depends how big your team is.
It's been really insightful. Thank you, Dave. Definitely.
Yeah, nice one, Jane.
I'm all for pushing boundaries. I've got the team here, and they have to calm me down a little bit. But I think no, definitely push it. Take things as far as you can. Love reading your content. For anyone who doesn't follow Dave on LinkedIn or Twitter, check out his pages, because they will humour you. And definitely some great tips, advice, and content there. So yes, get signed up for his newsletter, follow him on social, and I don't think you will be disappointed. Thank you very much, Dave.
Cheers, Jane. Thanks a lot. Definitely pushing the boundaries. Everyone's got to try that. You don't want to fall into the malaise in the middle. People will just people will wash over you, and you need to get noticed.
Definitely.
Yeah.